Hello, Patricia here, welcoming you to the Poetry Pcast. I've lots of original poetry to read to you today, from May's video prompt on YouTube and the latest Flashku. And I have some news from you from my little rant about the Touchstones. Let's start with that. If you haven't heard my rant, do go back to episode 22 of this 8th series and listen in full. But to summarise, I'll not be submitting any work to the Touchstone Awards at the Haiku Foundation this year because I didn't think it was fair that a family member of one of the judges was awarded a prize. The judge should have recused himself, I felt. Neither did I approve that the Haiku Foundation shut down discussions about that on their blog and subsequently removed the mention of this conflict and any comments about it. I also wondered in what world was it right that the publishing company of the chairman of an award organisation could nominate his publications for said awards. I'd written to Bruce Feingold at the Haiku Foundation, and he's the overall chair of the awards, because I thought it only fair to tell him I was going to talk about it and to give him an opportunity to reply. Today I have permission to read his reply to you. And it goes like this. I wish to address your feedback. I've separated our response into two parts. The relationship between Red Moon Press and the awards, and the issue of recusal and monitoring of the Haiku Foundation blog posts. I'm writing as the chair of the Touchstone Awards and on behalf of the Touchstone Committee, Robin Smith, Individual Poems Coordinator and President of the Haiku Foundation, Vandana Parashar, Haibun Awards Coordinator, and Jim Cation, Chair of the Haiku Foundation. So to start, the relationship between Red Moon Press and the Touchstone Awards. Bruce says, let me start with the relationship between Red Moon Press and Jim's role as founder and chair of the Haiku Foundation. This question has come up a few times in the last 15 years, and here's some thoughts I hope you will consider. And as you know, for the sake of full disclosure, Red Moon Press has published my collections. To the best of my ability, I want to give my unbiased view as the chair of Touchstones for many years. The Touchstone book panel members rotate every 3 years, and the composition changes every year as people term out. So there's been dozens of different individuals on the panel. Some of the poets know each other, most do not, as they're spread out throughout the country. Because the book awards are not judged in a blind way, we are aware, as are the panel members, of the need to check one's biases, one's personal relationships, and even one's haiku preference at the door. As one panel member said this year as he awarded his top vote to a book, it's not my cup of tea, but it's clearly a top book. The panel members have no formal relationship with Jim or the Haiku Foundation except as volunteers, and they have no incentive to reward Red Moon Press books over other books. In all my years, I have never heard a panel member seek favour or show bias to vote for a Red Moon Press book. As part of the Touchstone Committee, Jim and others provide input about the process of awards, but Jim has no involvement or knowledge of the voting and discussion about any of the awards. Also, Jim and I have never nominated our personal collections from the award process from the very beginning. It's part of our Touchstone manual that my and Jim's personal collections are not eligible. It is true that many Red Moon Press books were honoured this year, and have been recognised over the years. Red Moon Press nominates a large volume of books as it publishes a large percentage of the independent haiku books each year. So Red Moon Press books are highly represented in the books which are considered. Also, as you know, Red Moon Press tends to attract some of the most renowned haiku poets in the English-speaking world. So it's not a surprise that many are honoured. Also, in terms of percentages nominated versus the percentage of winners, a greater percentage of other small independent haiku publishers win awards in most years than do Red Moon Press. The panel members independently vote on the books in several rounds, and after the first round of voting, there's a group discussion as the final award winners unfold. The panel members would yell bloody murder if they felt someone was favouring a Red Moon Press book, or for that matter a book from Brooks Books or another publisher, due to a personal bias or prejudice or trying to court favour with Jim or any other publisher. I also want to examine the last 2 years for hints of bias. This year, the long list had about half the books from Red Moon Press, and as I said, a large majority of books nominated by Brooks, Snapshot, and Alba were on this list as well. If you look at the award winners, 2 were from Brooks Books, 1 from Red Moon Press, and the honourable mentioned books had 2 Red Moon Press books and 1 Snapshot Press. In 2023, only 6 of the 17 books were Red Moon Press books. The top 2 were not, and 2 out of the 3 honourable mentions were Red Moon Press books. If somehow undue influence was conscious or unconscious, I'm guessing that the top award winners would be more Red Moon Press books. If you're going to cook the books, it would be much better to choose Red Moon Press as award winners. Another way to view this issue comes from the idea of external validity. That is, the comparison between the Touchstone Awards and Haiku Society of America Merit Book Award. Let's just take 2023 as an example to compare those awards. I have a link for the HSA Merit Awards, which I'll put in the show notes. In the HSA Awards, the first and second place books were Red Moon Press, but were only on the Touchstone shortlist. The third place book was also a Red Moon Press book, but was not honoured by Touchstone. One honourable mention was Red Moon Press, but was not honoured by Touchstone. The Red Moon Press anthology, edited by Jim and team, won an award but was not recognised by Touchstone. While I have chosen 1 year, I think if you did a comparison each year, you would discover similar patterns. I'm going to interrupt Bruce's reply here to tell you that the lovely Bill Fay did do a comparison for me, and Bruce is pretty much correct. If you're interested, I'll put his research in the show notes. Now let me continue with Bruce's reply. The Touchstone books overlap significantly with the HSA Awards, which is one way we may see that many of the best books are being recognised. And I've never had anyone state they feel the HSA Awards tilt towards Red Moon Press. I don't think the data supports that Red Moon Press books are somehow favoured either in a conscious or unconscious way, and on this matter please feel free to connect with me or anyone on the Touchstone committee at greater length. So that's the end of the reply about the book section, and I thank Bruce for that certainly. And if you have any thoughts, you can contact me or you can contact Bruce and let him know what you think. And as I said, Bill Fay did do a comparison for me. Thank you, Bill. It will be in the show notes, which more or less confirms what Bruce said about the comparison between the Haiku Society of America's awards and the Touchstones. But there was something else that Bruce said. He said, "The panel members have no formal relationship with Jim. But a number of this year's panel have been published by Red Moon Press. Does that constitute a formal relationship or not? You decide." Of the 5 judges this year, for 2024, 4 have been published with Red Moon Press in one shape or form. Joyce Clement was in A New Resonance 7, published by Red Moon Press. Edward Cody Huddleston had his book published by Red Moon Press in 2021. Peter Newton had his books published by Red Moon Press in 2020 and 2022. Christopher Patchell had his book published by Red Moon Press in 2013. So let's turn to the individual poem awards. In my email to Bruce, I said I cannot support an organisation which gives an award to a family member of one of the judges, and then closes down discussion of the fairness of this decision. If Julie's poem was in the running for an award, then Dan should have stood down. It was a clear conflict. To which Bruce replied, "Your feedback involves 2 separate issues. The recusal process for the Individual Poems Award and policies and actions about blog posts. Let me start with the recusal process, which for the individual poems is a complex one. First, haiku journal editors are not on the panel, so we eliminate conflict of interests on this front. Second, as you know, throughout the voting, the judgment process is blind. That is, the names of the authors and the journal citations are never seen by the panelists. However, the process is complicated by the reality that panel members read haiku journals, discuss haiku with other poets, are friends with other haiku poets, and may have heard a poem discussed or workshopped in an informal group. For example, the Heron's Nest highlights the best of each issue, and voters select the best haiku of each calendar year. Hence, a panel member may remember a poem and its author, and may think highly of that person, or the opposite. Also, as you know, many haiku writers have a distinctive voice and signature style, and panel members may have a conscious or unconscious inkling who wrote a poem. For instance, I was at a local haiku workshop where the leader read the poems we had written that day, and a fellow poet chimed in, "I bet Bruce wrote that." I'm just going to do an aside here. That was a very small number of people though, Bruce. Anyway, Bruce's reply. Let's continue with that. The Touchstone Awards have strong guidelines and norms in the process for each award that we expect our panel members to be as fair and objective as possible. While Touchstone does its best to keep voting fair and unbiased, the judging is not truly totally blind. A panel member could theoretically vote for a friend's poem or a poem they remember, or for a poem from a regional group that they are a member of. Trusting and encouraging the fairness of our panel members is a primary. We ensure that the selection is as unbiased as possible, given the limitations I mentioned before. Regarding the inclusion of a haiku by a spouse or partner of a panel member, first, as far as I know, this is the first time we've had a renowned haiku poet on one of our panels with a haiku spouse. Second, if you notice in the blog thread, the panel member did not vote for the awarded poet or added to group discussions. While he did not formally recuse himself, he basically accomplished this by his actions. The recusal process causes other complications. If a panel member recuses themselves, the prospective poem has a 20% less chance to be on the long list, short list, or awarded. There are 5 panel members. Another perspective is that by recusing themselves, the spouse or partner is being penalised by not having the same possibility of winning an award. Panel members already can't have a poem of theirs awarded, so this kind of recusal is another barrier to volunteering. Finally, while we receive feedback like yours, we also received feedback supporting that we shouldn't penalise a spouse or partner, and thought our decision was a just one. I'm just going to butt in here for a moment because it occurs to me that the judge did not have to recuse himself from voting on his wife's poem. He should have recused himself from voting overall. Hence, no problem. Back to Bruce's reply. In the end, the coordinators trust the fairness, objectivity and impartiality of the panel members. If we heard of a clear case of bias or prejudice, a coordinator would bring it up. In all my years, I've never heard a panel member articulate they were voting for or against a poem or a book because they knew who the author was. The second issue you raise is how we monitor the blog posts. As you know, it can be difficult to ensure that social media is experienced as a safe and friendly environment. The Haiku Foundation board has spent countless hours over several years discussing this complex, unique issue of the 21st century. We're constantly trying to ensure adherence to our code of conduct and freedom of expression, but without letting blog posts become attacking, divisive, or hijacking the purpose of the post. As you can imagine, this is one of the hardest issues to address. We don't want to be heavy-handed, nor do we want individuals to post in ways which are intimidating or attacking or diverting from the purpose of the blog post. In this case, the purpose of blog posts is to congratulate our award-winning poets and/or to share reactions to the poems. The monitor felt that the individual posting was getting off message, detracting from discussing the awarded poems, and felt concerned that the individual was potentially creating discord versus giving thoughtful feedback. We've seen instances when a monitor did not stop these conversations quickly enough, and the blog posts blow up. Then others are upset that the blog felt unsafe and that the Haiku Foundation was too lax. I think I'm going to have to butt in here again as well. If the Haiku Foundation thought the blog was getting off topic, then they could have addressed the issue in another way rather than totally shut down the discussion at the point I looked at it, removing all posts that suggested something was amiss. Anyway, that's Bruce's response. I hope you feel I've been fair to the Haiku Foundation. However, I do not feel that they've put my mind at ease. I don't think they've addressed the conflict of interest in either of the cases, and I will not nominate this year. I'll do something else instead. Watch this space. Now, after a rather lengthy response from the Haiku Foundation, which, as I said, I think was only fair to do, let's hear some poetry. Congratulations to all the poets who are featured here today. You've all done a great job. My thanks also to the editing teams who were available to judge the Flashku. Blind reading as always. Thank you to Lev, Robert, Shane, Vandana, Richard, and our new member of the team, who made her debut this time with Flashku, Samantha Pardo Irigoyen. Welcome to the team, Samantha. So here are the Flashku poems, in no particular order, and of course I'll not say which received the honourable mention, there was one, and which poem received the editor's choice. Those results will be in the next journal. So, here we go. The Flashku results from June. Summer hoedown, swathes of swallowtails strictly hill-topping. Summer hoedown, swathes of swallowtails strictly hill-topping. Tracy Davidson. First day of summer, strangers chatting on the bus. First day of summer, strangers chatting on the bus. David Wheeler. His scent lingering, goldfinch song. His scent lingering, goldfinch song. Victor Ortiz. Spring cleaning, inside my washed bed sheets, her panties. Spring cleaning, inside my washed bed sheets, her panties. John S. Green. Spilling over the retaining wall, rain-lashed daffodils. Spilling over the retaining wall, rain-lashed daffodils. Katie Montagna. Newlyweds kiss on the riverwalk, returning butterflies. Newlyweds kiss on the riverwalk, returning butterflies. Rowan Beckett Minor. Clearing my mind, the soft murmur of spring rain. Clearing my mind, the soft murmur of spring rain. Mariangela Kanzi. Between pitches, the shortstop spits into her glove. Between pitches, the shortstop spits into her glove. Timothy Kremen. Biting wind, heron feathers scattered on the rocky shore. Biting wind, heron feathers scattered on the rocky shore. Mark Forrester. Sunburnt earth, in the cow trough, the eyes of a frog. Sunburnt earth, in the cow trough, the eyes of a frog. Deborah Carl Brandt. Much too loud for the reading room. The red hibiscus. Much too loud for the reading room. The red hibiscus. Ron Scully. Minnow School, a single-use plastic cup. Minnow School, a single-use plastic cup. Steve Barr. Distant highway, a siren's wail fading into birdsong. Distant highway, a siren's wail fading into birdsong. Julie Bloss Kelsey. Metro morning. Golmoha, reflections on mobile screens. Metro morning, Gulmohar reflections on mobile screens. Kavita Ratna. Monsoon floods, a dog's whimper drifting downstream. Monsoon floods, a dog's whimper drifting downstream. Nitu Yumnam. Rock pool, the deep blue pulse of a jellyfish. Rock pool, the deep blue pulse of a jellyfish. Sarah Winteridge. Well, great job everyone. And now I have the results of May's video prompt. My thanks to Linda, who reads all the poems. Thank you, Linda, for all the work you do to bring this popular feature to life. So, who have we got for you today? Let's have a listen and find out. Even the wind waits to watch the play of the lake. The heron turns back. Even the wind waits to watch the play of the lake. The heron turns back. Michael Dickinson. Two otters play hide and seek. The heron plays I spy. Two otters play hide and seek. The heron plays I spy. Anne Curran. Along the riverbank, rival fishermen, eye to eye. Along the riverbank, rival fishermen, eye to eye. Tracy Davidson. Stately heron, otter play ruffles feathers, river ruffian. Stately heron, otter play ruffles feathers, river ruffian. Wayne Kingston. From the bank, a crane watches the otters frolicking. From the bank, a crane watches the otters frolicking. Michael Barabow. Fluid movement. I long for the grace of this heron and otter. Fluid movement. I long for the grace of this heron and otter. David Cox. Feather grass water, the winter wind through my dream catcher. Feather grass water, the winter wind through my dream catcher. Matt Snyder. Feeling stiff, watching the heron stretching its neck. Feeling stiff, watching the heron stretching its neck. Tony Williams. River watcher, becoming heron, becoming tide. River watcher, becoming heron, becoming tide. Joanna Ashwell. Graceful heron, guarding the rushing of blue satin water. Graceful heron, guarding the rushing of blue satin water. Sarah Cabello. An audience of one, two river otters flaunt their romance. An audience of one, two river otters flaunt their romance. Terry L. French. Listening deeply, how I forget to notice his loneliness. Listening deeply, how I forget to notice his loneliness. Lakshmi Iyer. Needing space. The new neighbours partying again. Needing space. The new neighbours partying again. Melissa Dennison. Well, now that's it for this week. Thank you so much for being with me here today. I have your mission list for you, if you choose to do it, that is. Don't forget to send me your favourite Cheonyi poems and or your favourite haiku, ancient or modern. Start thinking about your haiku for belonging and alienation, making sure you're on the mailing list so you get an invitation to submit to our latest anthology. Please consider becoming a member of Poetry P, buying us a coffee, or if you can't do that, sing our praises via your social media. Let other haiku poets know we're out there. And give me your thoughts on the Touchstones. So far, I have to say, you've been very supportive of my stance. But I'm a believer in free speech, so I'm open to contrary opinions. Righty-ho. See you next week for more poetry. Until then, keep writing. And don't forget to check out the show notes. Ciao.